Hi everyone. In this lecture, we'll be learning about data structures in Python. Now just a quick note. Here we will not be going very deep inside this particular topic called data structures, because as we all know, data structures and algorithms forms a semester-long topic, and there is much to learn, especially for people taking the way to software development, engineering, or software engineers and everyone. For them, data structures plays an important role, as well as algorithms. But for data science, the basics of data structures needs to be learned. That's true. But not necessarily the entire thing, because a lot of libraries are provided in data science where we need not actually perform all the operations. However, in data science, logic, maths, and data manipulation, understanding of the business acumen per se plays the most important role. That said, let's move forward with this particular topic. All right. So in Python, we have 4 basic data structures: list, tuples, or tuple, whatever you want to call, set, and dictionary. Now, lists are nothing but a collection of objects that are decided or that are represented inside a third bracket. Lists provide us with a lot of manipulation operations and techniques. The most important thing in list is that it is mutable. That is, elements inside a list can be changed. Much similar to lists are tuples, which are represented by first bracket. And every operations that are performed in lists can be performed in tuples as well. However, the basic difference between list and tuple is that unlike the changing operations, that is, first we need to know that tuple is non-mutable. In simple words, it cannot be changed. So any data entered inside a tuple, let's say 1, 2, 3, remains as it is. In list, let's assume that 1, 2, 3 are the data that are taken inside a list. Now, let's say going forward, you want to change 3, or rather replace 3 with 4. So the new list now would become 1, 2, and 4. This can be done using list. However, this is not true for tuples. So essentially, tuples are collections wherein all kind of manipulations can be done, but no change in data, no addition or no subtraction in data can be done. Lists are like tuples, wherein all operations of tuples can be done, plus addition, subtraction of elements can also be done in lists. We'll be learning more as we move forward. Now, sets are nothing but mutable as well as unindexed. We'll learn all these terminologies as we move forward. And one most important thing in sets is that it cannot have repetition of numbers. So a tuple a list might have 1, 2, 3, 3. So can a tuple. But for set, if you enter 1, 2, 3, 3, the output would only be 1, 2, 3, because it cannot take any repeated values. What are dictionaries? Dictionaries are nothing, just like sets, but they have a key pair value. So this is the correct representation of a dictionary. we have a key and we have a value. The value can be called through the key. So here as we see 1:2, 2:3. Now when we call a of 1, we'll get the value. That is 2. The value of 1 is 2. And the value of 2 stored here is 3. So if we call a of 2, we get 3. Now we'll understand everything. This is the very basic thing that I have really told. Let's move forward and understand what are those things. Okay. So what a list? List is a collection of ordered and mutable items. As I said, these are ordered items and mutable, that is changeable. We'll be also seeing examples as we move to the lab sessions. Now, elements inside a list can be of the same or of different types. That is, a list can have all numericals, maybe some float values, as well as some string values. A list can have everything, a combination of everything. There is no problem. Duplicate members are also allowed. So as I said, you can have duplicate members. There is no problem. And the most important thing, lists are included within the third bracket. All right. Now let's move to tuple. What are tuples? Seen, tuples are ordered. However, they are non-mutable. That is, they cannot be changed. Elements can be of the same and different types, same as list. Duplicate members are allowed, and they are included within the first bracket. So the only two major difference that can be observed between list and tuple is that tuples are non-mutable while lists are mutable, and these are included in first bracket while lists are included within third bracket. So I hope this basic difference is clear by now. Now let's actually move forward and look at the entirety of differences between lists and tuples. All right. So the first difference, as I said, mutability. Lists are mutable while tuples are immutable. Next comes the iteration process. Iteration means simply going in a loop or using loops, that's per se. So the basic thing you can understand when I say iteration is including a loop inside this list or tuple. So iteration in list is slower, while that in tuples are faster. Now the basic difference here is due to manifold reasons. Let's just understand the point here. If we go deep dive into the data structures part, we'll understand how lists are created and tuples are created. And then is when we'll understand why lists are slower. You can also understand this particular point in this way, that since lists offer additional functionalities as well as addition and removal of elements, therefore, they need to be created in a very different way, and that is why they are slower. Now, for coming to the next part, that is memory consumption, lists do consume more memory. That is because of the same reason here. It has more functionalities and are created in a very different way. Tuples, on the contrary, consumes less memory. Now, the major use of list is for insertion and deletion operations. While for tuples, now also note that list can also be used for various accessing operations and other manipulation operations as well. But mainly we use them for insertion and deletion because comparatively they are slower and consumes much more memory. While tuples, on the contrary, are read-only. We use them for read-only operations and accessing elements and manipulation techniques, etc. Now, as we will be understanding about lists and tuples when we deep dive into this particular topics, we'll understand that lists provide many, and I mean many more inbuilt methods compared to tuples. All right. Now let's also take a quick overview of what sets and dictionaries are. And then we can actually move to the lab session. Okay, so sets are collection of unordered. Here, this is important. Both list and tuples were ordered. However, set is unordered and mutable. It is also unindexed. That is, so indexing, as we know from strings, let's say this is a string called hello, and let's it be included inside the variable s. So when we say s of 0, what do we get? We have already learned it, we get h. Why? Because the index of h is 0, here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Same with list and tuples, we can access elements by indexing. However, for sets, these elements included inside a bracket are unindexed. So if this is a set and we write s of 0, let's say, we straight away get some error because Python doesn't really understand what you mean when you ask for the indexing or you want to access any elements from set. Elements can be of same or different types. Duplicate members are not allowed. And these are included within the second bracket. So all are these parts of set. Now what are dictionary then? As I said, dictionary are key pair values. Here we get the key and here we take the value. So these are a collection of unordered and mutable items. These are indexed, not unindexed. We can access any value by writing t of the key. Elements can be of same or different types, and duplicate members are not allowed. That is, elements with same key value pairs can never exist, and they are included within second brackets. However, the essential difference between set and dictionary is that set contains list of elements separated with comma, while dictionaries have a key pair value separated with comma. That's the entire difference. Now we have several operations. A total of 14 are important that I have noted down. For list, we'll be understanding them one by one, everything. Okay, let's just understand the basics so that we can also understand what tuples provide and don't. So lists allow us to access items. Looping through lists, is also possible. They allow us to append items insert items. Okay, so what is the difference between append and insert? Append means appending any item at the last. So let's say there is a list 1, 2, 3, and I want to insert another item at the last. So what I do, I use this append function, which we'll be learning how to use it in the lab session itself. Let's understand what it does. Let's say we append 4 here. So the list becomes 1, 2, 3, and 4. What if we wanted to insert 2.5 in between 2 and 3? Then we should have used this insert operation and specify the position. And in that case, we could have taken 2.5 within 2 and 3. So append and insert are same. However, insert has some extra functionalities. That's the entire difference. Now, what is extend? Extend is when we have 2 lists and we want to incorporate them into one by appending it in the first one. So by an example, let me take an example. Let's say there was a list called 1 and 2. There was another list called containing 3 and 4. And if I appended this here, I would have got 1, 2, and the third element would be 3 and 4. So that would give me a list inside a list. However, had we used the extend operation, we would have got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the basic difference between extend and append. Concatenation is nothing but addition of 2 lists. You can understand, same as that we have learned in string. Addition, when I say addition, I mean it kind of operates like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's what concatenation is. Now, copy of a list, we'll learn many things about this particular operation, copy of a list. How can we copy a list? Much more about that when we deep dive into it in the lab session. Sorting of a list. So a list also contains inbuilt sorting operations. We also learn about operations like replace, remove, pop. So replace and remove are used to replace any elements. Both have their own different methods and usage. We'll understand everything. Same as pop. Pop is just used to pop any item. Delete is used to delete the entire list. And clear is used to clear the list so that list becomes blank again. Also, list can perform many mathematical operations, which we'll be understanding everything in detail. Now, tuples cannot perform some operations due to its immutability that lists can. What are those? Append, insert, and extend. These are things that tuples cannot. They cannot also perform remove, pop, delete, or clear operations, unlike lists. Again, replacing any elements. This cannot be performed by a tuple. Also, tuple cannot perform any sorting operations. Other than that, accessing an item, looping through tuples, concatenation of tuples, copy of a tuple, and different mathematical operations. All this can be easily performed using a tuple. Now, dictionaries. So dictionaries and sets have their own operations, and I really do not want to go into detail now. We'll be seeing everything in the lab session. One important thing that I wanted you all to know, set has this incredible operations which people belonging from any mathematical background would understand. That is performing union, intersection, difference, and every set operations that we can perform can be performed in Python itself using sets. All right. Now let's move to the lab session and understand the basics of data structures. Okay, so we've already learned what data structure is, all the 4 data structures that we need to know to go forward with our course. Now let's understand what we necessarily do. So starting with list, how do we create a list? So there are essentially 2 methods of creating a list. The third one is just an extension of the second method. So the first thing that we do, I'll perform intuitively while we write. So the first thing that we can do is we declare a variable. Let's say I declare li, and we put the third bracket into place. And then we can write any elements that we want to include. So what I've done here is I've included a string, an integer, and again a string. Right? So this is a string, this is an integer, this is again a string. And when I print li, I get this as my output. I can also create a list by simply writing li or any variable that's for you to decide, and writing list of, and then give my variables. So what I've done here is li equals to list of 1, 2, and 4. So what it would do now is it would take 1, 2, 4 and convert it to list. This was a string earlier, and now it will be converted to a list with each element as string. And since it's a list, it would be enclosed within the third brackets. And that's what has happened over here. The same thing can be done using a loop. So what I've done is I needed to take all the elements from 0 to 9. So that's what I've done. List of I for I in range 10. So we have already done loops. So what does this do? I for I in range. That is, in simple words, it's for I in range 10. That is from 0 to 9. Print I. That's what it has done. And therefore, it has taken all the values from 0 to 9. Now tuples. Tuple can be created by the same method. I've taken t to be the variable. And as list, I have done the same thing, only taking first bracket. And the same thing I've got as an output. Again, it can be created by writing the function tuple instead of list. So that's the same thing it has done as it has done to list. And again, this is the third method wherein I have used a loop to include all numbers from 0 to 9. So I hope you understand everything. Now coming to sets. What does set do here? So set can be created in the same method as tuple and list, but this time using second brackets. It can also be created by the function set, and this is again the same, including, using a loop. Now for dictionary, creating a dictionary is a different process, but it's again very easy. What we do is, like I've done, I've taken the variable name equals to key value, comma, key value. So that's what we do. Now, note that this is the first key and this is the first value linked to it. This is the second key, this is the second value linked to it. This is the third key and third value linked to it. Now let's say we want to access Ford. What do? D of brand. It gives me Ford. When we write D of 2, it gives me Mustang, this particular thing. So this is how it works. So let me check it. Does it really work that way? Let us check. So let's say D of 2, right? So it should give me Mustang, right? 2 Mustang. Yes, it does give me Mustang. Let's see D of brand. What does this give me? This gives me an error. Why? Because 2 was an integer and I had given an integer symbol. However, here brand was a string. So we need to give it as a string. And then only we get the value Ford. Same with this. When we take year, we will get getting 1964. So that's pretty much how dictionaries work. It has immense utility and we'll understand again everything. Now there are some important things to note. Creating empty list. Simple. Li equals to, just give a third bracket, leave it, an empty list has been created. Why we are learning that? We will be using every single thing. So right now, just learn the process. We'll be understanding how and when do we need it. Again, a list can also be created by this simple function by the function list and leaving it empty. Same for tuples. However, do note, for set, you have to use this particular function. Otherwise, if you just use your second bracket, let's say s equals to second bracket, a set won't be created. We can also check this out. Let's say we want to check it out. Okay. So let's say Li equals to this. And let's say I just want to know if a list, blank list has been created or not. So type of Li, it is a list. Let's say I just wanted to create a tuple. The name of variable it doesn't really depend. So yeah, now it would be a tuple. What if I give the second brackets? So one must have expected we get a set. But disappointing much to our disappointment, we get this to be a dictionary. So when we give second brackets, a dictionary is basically formed. If we want to create a set explicitly, we have to give set function and only then a set can be created. However, do note, I can create a set by this method. Just give second bracket and let's say I put 1 and 2. In that case, it would be giving me a set. Why? Because a dictionary is only key value pair. Only once I had given a key value pair, then it could have understood it's a dictionary. Also, then why did it take a blank second bracket to be dictionary in the first case? This is because when nothing is given, it doesn't really understand. Is it a set or dictionary? And the most important data structure that has been marked here is dictionary by usage, by the default, and that's the reason we get dictionary. So explicitly, if you want to create a set, write the function set. S is equal to set blank. This is what you do. S or li equals to whatever you want, and a blank set would be created. So I hope you get a basic understanding of data structures. We will be deep diving into each and every data structures, all these 4, as we go, so that you get a clear understanding of all the functionalities and operations of them. So that's it for this particular lesson. We'll be seeing you in the next subsequent lessons.